Hello everyone and welcome to Big Rock Moto. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I have two favors to ask you. One, if you're not subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. Two, whenever you're shopping for stuff, use my affiliate links. All right, this is the brand new 2025 KTM 390 Adventure R, and I have just purchased it for long-term review. All right, so 50 pounds or 23 kilograms. I want you to get this number in your head. 50 pounds, 23 kilograms. So I've just weighed this bike on my scales, confirmed. I did it multiple times to make sure. It comes in around 384 pounds or 174 kilograms. What that means is that this bike is a whopping 50 pounds or 23 kilograms lighter than its closest direct competitors, the CFMOTO Ibex 450 and the Royal Enfield Himalayan 450. Now, for any of you keyboard warriors wanting to compare the weight to a dual sport or enduro bike, I think you're kind of missing the point. This is an adventure bike. It's got a TFT dash. It's got a big rally tower and windshield. It's got a decent sized fuel tank. It's designed to carry camping gear, to carry a passenger, and to travel long distances, as opposed to a more simple, streamlined, more off-road oriented enduro or dual sport bike. Now, why did I buy this? Well, I could have gotten a press loaner bike like I usually do for my reviews, or I borrow a bike from the manufacturer. But in this case, I was only going to get the bike for a week or so, and I didn't feel that was going to be adequate. So I made the decision to go ahead and buy this bike for long-term review so that we can really go in depth on this bike and not be rushed by only having it for a week. Now, I want to be clear. I don't plan to keep this bike in the long term. So I may own it for 6 months, I may own it for 9 months, 12 months, but I'm buying this to do a review series with, because that's what I do here at Big Rock Moto, and then eventually I'll need to sell it to move on to make videos with a new bike, a new project. All right, so how much did I pay for this bike? Let's talk about it. Now, I want to be clear. I am in no way sponsored by KTM. I have no financial affiliation with them whatsoever. I did not get a special deal on this bike. I didn't get special treatment or whatever. What I did do was about 6 months ago, or even 9 months ago, I forget, I called my local dealer, AEO Power Sports in Murrieta, great dealer by the way, and I said, hey, put my name on the first 390 Adventure R because I probably want to buy it to do videos with. And so I was first on the list at the dealership, and that's how I got one of the first bikes. And I've also bought many, many motorcycles from this dealership. As we're talking about the price, I also want to make it clear that this is a KTM, but it's actually built by their partners and now, I guess, owners, Bajaj out of India. So it's an Indian-made bike made by Bajaj in partnership with KTM and branded as a KTM. And that's part of the reason why they're able to get the price low. So let's get into the price. MSRP here in the US for the Adventure R is $6,999, so $7,000. We should point out that that is less than half the price of a new 890 Adventure R. You could literally buy two of these and still have leftover money versus buying an 890 Adventure R. So I think that puts things in perspective. So what did I pay? So the bike was $7,000, and then there was $1,000 for freight, which is shipping the bike to the dealership. And then there was a setup fee, and all that total about $1,000, which is kind of a lot, I admit. And then there was a $700 tariff. The tariff is a tax that is paid by consumers. So in the US right now we have these tariffs, so it's a tax increase on consumers. So I had to give my government, the US government, an extra $700 for the right to purchase this bike. So it's a tax, in addition to all the other taxes I'm already paying. Yeah. Then there was sales tax, which was about $680. There was vehicle license fees, $246, blah, 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 a few other things, and it was $9,800. So I paid $9,800 US. Again, I'm in California, USA, that's what I paid. So yeah, that's just the facts. Now, let's talk about some model differences between different countries and different models, all right? So first of all, here in the USA, the Adventure R model, and I'm saying this because I think in other countries the equipment is different. In the USA, if you buy an Adventure R for this model year, you don't get cruise control. You don't even get the buttons for it. You don't get a quick shifter. You don't get a rear rack, and it's kind of bare bones. as opposed to maybe we thought we were getting some of those things. So there is that. Now more on that later. Now the other models that the new 390 comes in, you can also get the Enduro. The Enduro is more of a dual sport setup. It doesn't have the big rally tower. It's got equipment differences. It's more slimmed down and more of like, think like a big dual sport bike kind of, right? That can still do street. Now they also have the Adventure X model. The Adventure X model, what they do is they put on 19 17-inch wheels as opposed to the 21/18 on this bike. You get cast aluminum wheels instead of the spokes you see here. You get lower suspension travel, lower seat height. It's a more road, it's a street-oriented bike, and this is the off-road oriented model. Let's have a look at the seat height and ergonomics on the 390 Adventure R. I think a lot of people were thinking that because this is a 390, so-called beginner bike or more entry-level, lower capacity bike, that it's going to be more short rider friendly. And in fact, let's not even use the word short rider friendly, because the average height of a human being in the world is 5'7". I'll put the centimeters below. So saying that someone's short isn't really the case. They're just average and they still can't ride these bikes. Now, when you look at the ground clearance and the suspension travel of this bike, it's a lot. And what that does is it pushes the bike up. So they have no choice but to make the seat height pretty high. The only way they could get around that would be to get a super low seat, almost sitting on the frame of the bike, which would be uncomfortable, and it would really reduce the distance between the seat and the foot peg, making your legs feel cramped and you would be uncomfortable. So they have to balance all these things out. Now there is that X version of the bike that's lower if you need that. But as it is, this bike is tall. It's 34.2-inch seat height or 870 millimeters. It is not a short bike whatsoever, so don't think that. I am 5'10" or 178 centimeters. I have a 32-inch inseam. I weigh around 200 pounds, 90 kilos. And you can see I'm kind of on my tiptoes. Usually I only put one foot down and I'm flat-footed, but if I put both legs down, I can't flat-foot on both sides. It's tall. Now, the good news is it's pretty light, so I can lean over pretty far and it doesn't feel too tippy, because it is a pretty lightweight bike for an adventure bike. Now, to kind of show you what I mean about the weight of the bike being low, yeah, it's not bad at all. We'll do the drop test in a future video soon, but it's really not bad. It's really not bad at all. All right, let's cover the basic specs and then we'll take a walk around, kind of give you a tour of the bike. So the engine, 398cc single cylinder, 4-stroke liquid cooled. It's a little bit larger than the outgoing 390 Adventure and the old 390 model. So they made the engine a little bit bigger, a little bit more powerful, a little bit more torque. It's 44 horsepower and 29 foot-pounds of torque, or 39 Newton meters. Suspension travel is class leading, and it's 9 inches or 230 millimeters. I'll show you the adjustments here in a minute. Ground clearance is also class leading and very impressive, 10.8 inches or 270 millimeters. The fuel tank, which is carried up here, not down low like on the 790s and 890s, is 3.7 gallons or 14 liters. It may sound a little small, but these motors tend to get very good fuel economy, so we'll have to see how that translates into the real world riding range. I'll show you the lighting. So you've got this running light, which is very dim actually. I don't know how it looks on camera. Turn signals, which are a new design, and they're LED. Rear lighting. This big appendage, I mean, that's for legal reasons. We'll have to see if we can do something about that. LED lights in the back, and you have like a dual taillight setups. You've got brake and tail light there, but then there's also this lights up when you hit the brakes as well. Yeah, so starting up at the front, high front fender or mud guard, depending on where you are in the world, what you call it. Nice thing about that design is that you won't have mud and rocks getting jammed up. In the bikes with the low fenders that hug the tire, you have an issue with that. You're not going to have that issue with this bike. So again, shows that how this is set up really for off-road. Tires that come with the bike are Mitas Enduro Trail Plus. I believe they used to call these the EO7s. They're a pretty solid performing 50/50 tire. You can see the brakes here, so I'll put the brake disc size here in the text, and you've got a dual piston These are Bibre, so the Indian subsidiary of Brembo. You can see the suspension here is WP Apex open cartridge. You have adjustments. The adjustments are at the top of the forks. It's hard to see here, but you've got a rebound adjustment on the right fork leg and a compression adjuster here on the left fork leg. There's no preload adjustment for the front forks. There are tubes in the wheels, and that's going to spark a debate between the off-road guys who like tubes and the on-road folks, touring folks who want the convenience of tubeless. That debate will never end, and there are pros and cons to each. However, they are tubes, spoke 21-inch front and 18-inch on the rear, so a real off-road oriented wheel size setup. The headlight is a very different design from before. I like this new design much better than their old design language. The windshield is large, and it has this vent in it here to, in theory, reduce buffeting, make the airflow a little bit smoother. You've also got little kind of vents here, I assume also to control the back pressure so you don't get too much of that wind buffeting that's common with these bikes. Working our way around the side fairings, the radiator is up in here. I know it's a bright sunny day, so we get a little bit of contrast here with the lighting, so I apologize for that. Side of the engine, coolant reservoir tank. The horn, which kind of hangs down here, a bit vulnerable. Let me try to kind of get down lower here. I want to show you the exhaust and the skid plates. So you can see the exhaust coming down under here. It does hang down a little bit, but not too much. Pretty well tucked in. And you've got O2 sensors, you've got a catalyst here, and then the exhaust exit is here. So what you, on most motorcycles, you'd have an exhaust up here. They didn't do that. So they exited the exhaust down here really low, which is going to be good for mounting luggage because you're not going to have exhaust in the way. But I do wonder the implications of this for going through deep water. I wonder what the implications of that are. We'll have to investigate that later. The skid plate is not great, but it does give you some basic protection, but it looks pretty flimsy the way that it's mounted. This is not going to be able to take any hard impacts, so aftermarket upgrades or KTM power pod upgrades is going to be something that I'm going to be looking for really, really soon. You can see the oil sight glass there. What I like what they did with the adjustable controls on this bike, it's a theme with this bike, I really like that. You can adjust the tip of the brake lever here, and it looks like two different positions to move that around. The foot pegs are decent sized. They have these rubber inserts, which I'll be taking out once I finish this tour video. Before we ride the bike, I'll be unscrewing these, and they unscrew just here on the bottom like that. The passenger foot pegs bolt on down here instead of up here like you see with some bikes, and they flip out like that. They don't feel like they latch real well, and they keep coming back out even when I'm just moving around the bike, so we'll have to see how that kind of works out. So the rear shock is here. You've got a rebound adjuster here, and I'll cut to a video showing removing this cover and how to adjust the preload on the rear shock. So here's this access cover for the shock removed. So what you have to adjust preload, well, you've got your rebound damping there. Preload is a collar here. It's not a threaded collar, it's a stepped collar. So you can use a little preload tool to do this. Now, these are the tools that come with the bike, just some Allen keys and a screwdriver and an O-ring. I don't know why you need that, but so they don't give you the thing to adjust this. But I have in my toolbox, I happen to have this tool, and I can adjust the preload just by spinning this here and adjusting it into the different, everything's hard to do with one hand while I'm holding a camera, but I can adjust it here into the different positions. So I'll be setting the sag, the riding sag for my weight. The bike doesn't have any sort of rear luggage rack, which is kind of disappointing. There's really very limited ways to mount anything the way it is. It does have some mounting points here and here, I assume will be used by factory accessories, and then of course the aftermarket will use those as well. The seat, there's also no passenger grab handles whatsoever. So if you're taking a passenger, you probably need to do something about this. There's a strap here. I guess that's the passenger grab handle, is the strap. And then you can see the one-piece seat here. Rear tire, we talked about 18-inch spoked tubed Mitas tire. The spokes seem pretty heavy duty. Also, I noticed the rim is not too wide. It's a nice and narrow rim, which is good for off-roading. You can see the rear disc here, one piston disc caliper, and it's bi-bray as well. In the US, this is what we get for our rear fender with dual taillights, which I showed already. And this part unbolts. You can see you could unbolt this lower part and then move the license plate up here, but you'd have to figure you'd lose this light, so you probably wouldn't be legal, and you'd have to relocate the turn signals or get smaller turn signals to put up here. But I project that's going to be a popular mod, because if you look at sort of how this hangs down, it hangs out there pretty far. See, this passenger peg is already flipped down again. Chain, you've got the little chain hook there for when you remove the wheel chain adjusters. That comes with the chain guide. I like to see that. That's nice to have. Mud guard there. This is your access panel for your air filter, and let's cut to a video showing that. Airbox access is an important issue on an off-road bike. You want to be able to keep your air filter clean. So on this panel, it even says airbox access. 2 little screws, pull that off. This is the airbox lid here, so the air filter's under here. I'm not sure, we'll pull this off later in another video. It's probably a paper filter, I'm guessing, and not an oiled foam filter. But I like how it's super easy to get to, as opposed to some adventure bikes. Even some of the competitors to this bike, you have to remove the fuel tank, like the Himalayan. Right here, that's really nice to see. And you can see the intake running up through here. I figured we might as well just look at this while we're here. So this is the air filter. It's a paper cartridge, you can see here, and it just clips into the air box pretty easily. And there you can see the air box and the where the intake runs to the engine there. So pretty easy to access. I know the off-road guys are going to want a oiled foam filter, but there's probably reasons why they have to do the filters this way. I'm not really sure what those reasons are, but anyway, pretty easy to access the air filter. Right here is where you put the key in to remove the seat. So the seat pops off very easily. Under the seat, what you'll find is, well, I took the toolkit out because I was using it. You'll find a cover here, the batteries under here. It shows you the settings for your suspension settings. I love to see that. It shows you the tire pressures and some bike information there. That's about it for under the seat. Also, the seat is not adjustable. There's no different height settings. You just get the one height setting. Although I do believe they do have different seats available. Taking a look at our shifter arrangement, it is adjustable. The adjustment's going to be kind of under here. You can't really see it with some lock nuts and screws. Sorry about that with the camera. And then it kind of has this. There's also, I believe the bike already has the sensors for the quick shifter, and it's just a software thing that you have to enable. You can see the trellis frame, which I like. I think trellis frames look really, really nice. This sort of is a hanger attachment where the engine then attaches again down here with an engine mount. Radiator fan is tucked up in here. Fuel tank, so you access your fuel tank with the key. It flips forward like that, so it should be pretty easy to get fuel. I can even do this one-handed. That's always a good sign. Key goes in there. I'm a little disappointed the handguards are super flimsy. They're not the strong plastic guards that come on the 790s and 890s and those bikes. You know, again, this is a Bajaj made bike, made in India, and some of the parts and components are not quite up to the quality or the robustness that you see on some of their other models that are made in Austria. So keep that in mind. Not saying it's bad, but again, like these mirrors as well are really hokey, really not good mirrors, and I'm going to need to get these changed out pretty soon. Control levers, I like. They're adjustable for reach on both the clutch and the brake. You have adjustable levers. That's nice. The controls are kind of a newer setup for KTM. Sorry, I've got some shadows happening here. But you've got some menu stuff here. This is where the cruise control would go. Let's cut to some footage talking about the cruise control situation and a few other things. All right, so KTM, like a lot of other motorcycle companies, has decided not to give you a paper printed owner's manual when you buy the motorcycle. So Here I am on the website trying to download the right version for this bike so I can read through the manual before I start doing this review. Look how many versions there are. There's like 100 different ones, so I gotta scroll through here and find the US English version because you want to get the manual for your country. And when you find the right one, what I like to do is download it into my cloud or my Google Drive, keep it on my phone, and actually I prefer a printed copy, a paper copy under the seat in a plastic bag, so we'll see how many pages it is if I can do that. So that's what I'm doing right now. Going through the owner's manual, here's the cruise control. Here's where the button should be, but my bike doesn't have it. It says cruise control system tip switch optional. So I guess that's going to be where they have to change out the switch cluster and do a software update. I don't know when this is going to be available or how much this is going to cost. That's information I would really like to have, but we don't have that right now. I understand that companies want to make money off of selling upgrades and additions, but I also think that they have to weigh that against how customers are going to feel when bikes don't have the features that they were kind of hoping for, and now they have to pay extra. So I think it's a balance they have to walk. But KTM is, they have the right to make money and charge extras. I'm not sure how I feel about it, honestly. I think for the price I paid for the bike, it would be kind of nice if it had cruise and the quick shifter. All right, so it looks like it's going to have these, this is like on the 1290s, it's going to have these plus and minus triggers for the cruise. I like that setup. Now again, I just wonder when can we get this, and kind of also why the bikes didn't come with it. I love this. The KTM does this on a lot of their bikes, and it's a phenomenal feature. There's 6 different positions you can mount the handlebar in by moving the handlebar mount. So they give you different mounting holes. You can move your handlebar forward and backwards. That's great to dial in the ergonomics. So before you start going with bar risers and stuff, which usually actually makes the bike handle worse in my experience, try adjusting your ergonomics. I like the KTM gives us that. Here's some maintenance info for you. Oil change, they want, the break-in at 1,000 kilometers, 600 miles, and then every 6,000 miles or 10,000 kilometers thereafter. So that's about average what I would expect. And then I scroll down here to the valve clearance. So the valve inspection, which is one of your major service items that can be expensive on some bikes, 12,000 miles or 20,000 kilometers is the interval there. So that's pretty good. That's nice. Okay, we're back. So let's talk about you got turn signals and horn here. Handlebars are adjustable in a bunch of different positions. Fantastic to have that. Over here, you've got this sliding kill switch, and then the start switch, you have to have this like this, and then the engine will start there. If I turn the key on, you'll see ready to race, and then it boots up very, very quickly. I've got a side stand warning, that's fine, we'll turn that off. You can see here on our gauge cluster, I don't know if this comes through in the camera. I mean, it's bright, full sun right now in summer, but it's just a little, not as quite as bright as some of the other bikes, the other KTMs and Huskies. I don't know, maybe I'm just remembering it wrong, but this seems a bit more dim. I tried to see if there was like a cover over it, like from shipping, but there's nothing to peel off. So this is how the gauge is. You've got your favorites down here, which you can configure to be whatever you want. You've got a fuel gauge, which is not showing totally full, although the tank appears full, so I'll have to kind of check on that. Lights across the top, and then the ride mode, engine temperature, tach, speedometer, gear indicator. We'll get more into that in another video. Now, when you go to off-road mode, this by default went to a smaller screen with no tach. I turned that off, and I made it so that the off-road mode still has the full dash, because I always want to see my tach and everything else like that. Let me briefly as I can, show you how the TFT works and the different menus and things. So this is pretty easy to navigate these buttons, and these are backlit at night. These are backlit, and your start switch is backlit. Like the turn signal, horn, hazard lights, some of the other stuff is not, but the main stuff you need is lit up at night. And we'll do a night riding video later on in the series to show you all that. So the TFT dash, this is going to be familiar if you have an 890, 790, or a 901. I think it's even the same size. It just doesn't appear to be as bright. So if we go into the menu here, you can see that we've got ride mode, and if you go in there, you've got 3 modes. You've got street, off-road, and rain. You can configure the ride modes to how you want. So if I go into configure ride mode, This is the off-road mode. I can set ABS. Do I want off-road mode ABS to be road or off-road? Off-road turns off the back and leaves on the front, which is what you want. Also, the bike remembers your setting. Thank God. I mean, I just can't tell you. So many bikes out there don't remember the settings when you restart. This bike does. You can key the bike off with the key and it remembers your ABS and traction control and everything you've set up. Thank God. That is such a nice thing to have. Okay. And then the traction control you can have to on or off. I'm going to set that to off for the off-road mode for now. Throttle response, off-road is the most aggressive, street is less aggressive, rain is even less aggressive. These are not power modes. These do not change the engine power. They simply change the throttle response and the feeling of it. So they don't give you more power, more acceleration. That's a common myth that people have, and that's wrong. Display mode, you've got standard or reduced. So again, that's what I was talking about. You can go into that reduce mode, but I don't like it. So I like to have standard. So you go out of that, we go back out of that, we can go to bike info and you can see all the different information here, you know, fuel range, battery, coolant temperature, trips, blah, blah, blah. If we go into here, favorites, that's the thing that's on the bottom of the screen. So you can set what you want to see on the bottom of the screen, and I've already set that up on mine. Quick selector are these up and down buttons here. So I have the upper one set to ride mode and the lower one set to ABS. But if you had the heated grips, you could change it to that. You can change it to different things as you prefer. Connectivity, this bike does have connectivity for your phone, and we'll cover that in a future episode. The shift light, okay, you can't change it below 600 miles. So I'm going to be stuck with that until 600 miles. I don't really like the shift lights personally. Clock and date, units, language, heating. Yeah, so the heating, we don't have the heated grips or the heated seat, but you can get that. And then extra functions. I guess here's where you would like configure the quick shifter and stuff, which again, this bike doesn't have. All right, so I hope that was a lot of good information here for episode 1. Now, don't be mad. I can already hear you in the comments. Why aren't you riding the bike? Where's the first ride? How does it compare to 50,000 other bikes in every possible detailed way? We'll get there. Just hold on. I literally got this bike out of my truck last night, and I'm filming and editing this video the very day after. To give you perspective, normally the videos that I do, it'll be weeks between the time I film stuff and when I publish a video. So this is about as fast as I can turn around a video. So we're not riding the bike. So hold on, it's coming in episode 2, which I will get out very, very soon, I promise. All right, we will have episodes that are broken out into all different things like I do. If you look at the series I did with the Aprilia Touareg, the Honda Transalp, other bikes, it's going to become similar to that. So I would imagine we'll have anywhere between 4 to 7 different episodes covering everything you could possibly want to know about the 390 Adventure R. And since I purchased it, we have as long as we need to cover all that stuff without being too rushed. So there'll be all the episodes with it. If there's things that I glossed over that you're curious about, put that down below. I will do my best to get back to you. Again, those 2 favors I asked of you at the start. Please subscribe and please use my affiliate links whenever you're shopping for stuff. It makes all the difference in the world, and it allows this kind of review to keep going into the future when new bikes come out. All right, I think that about wraps up episode 1. Thanks for watching. Ride safe. I'll see you out there.